Got the audacity to question me, Dr. Umar Johnson, the Prince of Pan-Africanism? Man, you disrespectful Negroes are crazy. Meek Millie was goody. Philly, stand up. They want to shut me down, they think I don't have a degree. What's a piece of paper to a nigga like me? I got Frederick Douglass blood running through these veins. His hair, my beard, it's snappy all the same. While y'all was still asleep before hitting colors 3, I was dashiki down speaking in these streets. All I wanted to do was save little black boys. Give them school, teach them not to be in jail or unemployed. Bitch, I'm a psychologist, I do this education shit. When you on the top though, people on they hating shit. Y'all don't even donate shit, so I ain't really feeling ya. I'm the most requested black scholar in America. I done been on News One, I done been on Breakfast Club, I done wrote a book, Psychoacademic Holocaust. I don't even understand why you wanna hate me. Kids are being misdiagnosed with ADHD. Fuck all you haters for trying to strip my business. I fight racism, y'all just fighting tickets. Fuck all the critics, when you win and they come after you. I refund the school money, then I'm going to Africa. Fuck all you coons who went and snitched to them crackers. Now they wanna strip me of my credentials, you bastards. Fuck the judge and jury, give a fuck what the court says. And fuck Tariq Nasheed with his little ass forehead, nigga. And fuck you too, Roland Martin. That's right. Little motherfucker. That's right. Had me on News One with all them coons up there, asking me all them questions. Right. Like I'm not the motherfucking king of this black scholar hotep shit, nigga. I've been doing this shit longer than all you niggas. All you niggas gonna respect me. You niggas got the audacity to question me, Dr. Umar Johnson, the Prince of Pan-Africanism? Man, you disrespectful Negroes are crazy. Meek Millie was goody. Philly, stand up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let me get some fists in the chat if you can hear me loud, crisp, and clear, and we'll go ahead and get this party started. Boy, oh boy, it's been 14 years and counting. Umar Johnson still has not finished the school, but he finds time to get online and try to insult Black Aboriginals. I'm not sure why. Oh, wait, it's because he's the Prince of Pan-Africanism. That's right. He's the crowning chief in promoting and continuing to circulate this lie that we all come from Africa. And let's see what bullshit Umar has for us this time, y'all. Let's go.
Native Africans of America. That's what you should be calling yourself. See, if you tell me that I do not descend from enslaved Africans, I descend from the original Africans who came to America, I have no problem with that. If you tell me I do not descend from the enslaved African, I descend from the original Africans who came to America millennium before Columbus, I have no problem with that.
So now he's trying to say that us Black Indians really just came from Africa a long time ago. Of course, he has no sources to cite to back his claims. He's just talking. He's just talking. Hey, he's not over in Australia, though, trying to convince the Black Aborigines in Australia that they come from Africa. But he's trying to convince us we come from Africa. Yeah, we already know that as early as the 1600s, they were reclassifying Indians as Negroes and other slaves and placing them on plantations with the African slaves, reclassifying us, if you will. But I guess Umar's just ignorant to that?
I have no problem with that. You say, Doc, I am a descendant of the original African tribes in America. I have no problem with that. But that's not what y'all teach. That's not what you pretendians teach. You pretendians teach that you are not African. You have no African DNA. That's a problem. Let me tell you why that's a problem. And I don't care about y'all hating on me on Clubhouse. They've been hating on me on YouTube, and I'm still number one. I'm still that. Listen, I don't care how many Clubhouse groups y'all start trying to take down the champion of Black consciousness. They did it on YouTube, and I'm still here, and I'm still number one. That's right. That's right. Most degrees, most supporters, most requested. Stop playing with me. Only one with an institution, because you know we bought the whole block. Y'all talking about buy the block back? We bought the whole block.
I love when you lying like that. So I'ma keep lying like that. I love when you lying like that. So I'ma keep lying like that.
Yeah, Umar, you bought a couple of trap bandos in the projects down the street from a maximum security prison. That's not what we mean when we say buy the block back.
Marcus Garvey, we bought the whole block. Stop playing games. But here's the problem for you pretendians who say, I'm a Native American, but I'm not African. Here's the problem. The original Americans were African.
Okay, can you like give any sources to cite your claim? What are you talking about? Guys, I literally do genealogy consultations with dozens of people each week. 90% of the Black Americans I meet with, we find ancestors of theirs with tribal affiliation on our first meeting. So what's Umar Johnson talking about? Oh wait, guys, I guess I should stop doing genealogy consultations. You guys should stop tracing the paper trail of your ancestors, and we should just believe this conscious Hotep hustling Negro tuning in live from an abandoned building he's been claiming he's going to turn into a school for 14 years now.
Vasco Nunez da Gama. Look up the European. Vasco Nunez da Gama. Go look him up. Go look him up. That European said when he showed up in the Americas, the Native Americans told him that the original people were African. Don't believe Dr. Umar. Go look up and see what the white man.
And he's misquoting him. This was a European. It was not a white man. It was a Spaniard. And what he said he heard from the natives proved to be hearsay with no evidence to back it. But if it fits Umar's pan-goofy narrative, well, Umar's going to promote it.
And said who came here. Columbus was not the only European who said, quote unquote, Negroes were in the Americas. Negroes were.
Negro is just Spanish for black playboy. When the Spaniards came here, because the Spaniards were the first Europeans to come, not the British. When the Spaniards came, they called the Aboriginal folks Negros de Terras, which means blacks of the land. It was because we were copper colored, dark brown, and approaching to be black. It's not because he was saying we're from Africa. How would they even know where the fuck we're? Oh my gosh, Umar.
Was in the Caribbean. Oh yes, go look it up. They was using the word Negro at that time. Yes. Columbus said he found Negroes in the Caribbean. Vasco Nunez da Gama said not only did he find Negroes in America, he said that the Native Americans told him that the original people were Africans. Don't believe me, go do your research. But here's the problem you pretendians are going to run into. Here's the problem you pretendians are going to run into. If the original Americans were African and you are not African, that automatically means that you are a descendant of the red man, the red Native American, not the black Native American.
Oh gosh, Umar just doesn't know what he's talking about. He takes one misquote out of context, and now he's just going down a pseudo rabbit hole of sorts.
See, the black Native American is the African, and they were here first. The black Native American was the African, and they were here first. The red man was not here first. The red man is the amalgamation of the Asiatics who came over, mixing with the original African to make the red. So,
and you see how he has to mix some truth with the lies? Yes, there were three different type of ethnic group of American Indians. The first were the Anasazi, or the Amerindian, or the Negro. They were black. Then you had the Southwestern Plains Indians who came from the Siberia through the Bering Strait. And yes, when they mix with the black folks, you now have the red man, but nobody ever claimed that the black Indians from America came from Africa. Nobody has ever made that claim. A few Spanish explorers tried to make that claim, and it was debunked. It was refuted because it don't make no sense. There's too rich of a culture. They've been here too long. There's too many of them to claim that what a few of them came from Africa and stayed, and now there's 500 million Black Indians. No.
But when you say I'm not African, you cannot be the original Native American. When you say I am not African, you cannot be the original Native American.
Deep game, guys. He knows he's losing this Pan-African war. He knows that Black Americans are waking up to our Aboriginal heritage, so he has to still tie it to Africa. First, he used to make videos talking about we're not Native at all, we're pretendians. Now it's, you know what, there were Black Indians, but the Black Indians really come from Africa, so even if you're Native, you come from Africa, so you should still be Pan-African like me. Send me a donation. No, sir, we're not African.
American. You can't have it both ways. You are either African and you are the original Native Africans of America, because if you're telling me you're not African, you descend from the red.
Native literally means you were born here. So how are you going to be a Native African of America? That makes no more sense than calling someone an African American. It's a misnomer.
Red man. So you are descendant of the red native, not the Black native. So if you are descendant of the red native, you cannot be Aboriginal. You cannot be Aboriginal. You cannot be indigenous to America because the red Native American was not here first. He is a mixture of the Asiatics and the original Africans. So which way do you want to play this? Which way do you want to play this? Are you a descendant of the original Africans of America? Or are you a descendant of the red people who are a mix?
So he thinks he can gaslight us with his pseudo babble. Checkmate, guys. Now, you either have to say you're African or you have to say you're a red man. See, gotcha. Nana, nana, boo, boo. Sir, nobody's falling for it. Nobody's falling for it. We've traced our lineage. We have our paperwork. Some of us even have our citizenship. Guys, I didn't pull this image off the internet. That's me. I know I haven't been cammed up for the last couple months. That's your boy, Mike. Muskegee Creek Nation, proud member, card carrying. I think I know more about Aboriginal history than some dumb nigga tuning in from the trap bando, soliciting donations to one day finally build a school, claiming he's going to educate boys, but really he's just trying to sleep with their single mothers. Let's talk about it.
Race group who are also of African DNA. Make up your mind. Make up your mind, pretendians. Y'all got a lot of questions y'all need to answer now. Got a lot of questions y'all need to answer, because you do know the European anthropologists found skulls of African people.
It's really interesting that Umar says that we have a lot of questions to answer, but when I made comments directly to him about this school scam, he didn't want to answer to it. His answer was, Mike, why you do me like that?
Well, the only reason why I mention people's actions is because you yourself exclusively date Black, yet you're one of the biggest scammers in our community. It's been 12 years and you still haven't.
Why you do me like that? Why you do me like that, bro?
Yeah, I think you have some things to answer for. Going on 15 years, you've raised millions of dollars in donations, and you still haven't built that school. People's kids have gone to grade school, high school, and college, and you still haven't built that school you got all of our money to build, huh?
Well, in the Almec discoveries, there were skulls. Don't believe me, go do your research. Everything I'm saying, go find it. If the Olmecs were not an African, and if the Olmecs were not influenced by African, how in the hell did they find African skeletons in the same areas where they found the Olmec heads? Help me out.
Guys, what is an African skeleton? I didn't know there was such a thing as an African skeleton. They found an African skeleton? What, did the skeleton show signs of malnourishment? So you knew it was an African? I mean, what are you talking about? Do you mean they took DNA samples from the bones and compared them to DNA samples from remains in Africa? And if so, which part of Africa? Because Africa's a continent, not a country, you fucking imbecile. What is he talking about?
Want me to keep going? Let's keep going. How about in the pyramids of ancient Kemet, Nile Valley, Africa? In the pyramids of ancient Kemet, Nile Valley, Africa, they found smoking products, nicotine and tobacco, varieties of nicotine and tobacco that were grown in Mexico. How?
Sir, we all know that Africans were the first to circumnavigate the globe and that they did trade with the American Indians. There were American Indians that were found with gold-tipped spears from Mali and shit. Come on. Yes, they were probably trading back and forth. That doesn't mean the American Indians descend from Africans. That's not how that works. Just because they do some trade does not mean that they descend from Africa. And if so, which part? Because Africa's a continent, not a country.
How did they end up in the pyramids? I'll tell you why. Let me help you out. The Greek historian Herodotus, the Greek father of history, Herodotus, said that Ramses III.
Oh, and guys, fun fact, since he's talking about did you guys know that the Egyptian pyramids had tobacco in them? Hey guys, did you guys know that they also grow tobacco in Africa? Why is Umar talking about tobacco in the pyramids like that's irrefutable evidence that American Indians are African now because some tobacco was in the pyramids? Umar, do you not know that they grow tobacco in certain parts on the African continent? Oh Lord, guys, hold on. I think the pseudo cult leader has drank his own Kool-Aid. I think Mans really thinks that the only place on earth that you can cultivate tobacco is in America.
The Greek philosopher Herodotus said Ramses III took large
what?
Groups of ships out to the open ocean and sea, and he sailed the four corners of the globe.
Okay, so a Greek man said that an African sailed around the world. Mike is saying the same thing. That does not mean that American Indians are descendants of Africans, because one African explorer sailed around the world, the four corners, does not mean. God, if he sailed around the four corners, why aren't you going to the Chinese and trying to convince the Chinese they're really African? Europe is part of the four corners. Why don't you go to Europe and try to convince the Europeans they really descend from Africans? What are you talking about? Hey guys, hold on. We got to clap for emphasis because Umar heard from a Greek white man that an African did some exploring. So that means that the Indian is really an African. No, it doesn't work like that, Umar.
Say it again. Herodotus said Ramses III was the captain of a large body of ships that sailed to the four corners of the earth. Lord have mercy. Y'all got some problems now. Y'all got some explaining to do, pretendians. Y'all got some explaining to do, pretendians. Here's the other thing. Last thing for the pretendians, and I'm only talking about the pretendians because they done made 1 million clubhouse groups trying to defame the character of the most popular black scholar in the world. They don't know YouTube already tried it and they fail. Y'all gonna fail. You can't stop this. I keep telling you, this is God-given. This is God-given. Last point for the pretendians. Most Native American tribes, and when I speak of Native American, red tribes, I'm talking about the red man, not the black man. The black man is the original Native American. The black man is the original Native American. The red.
Why does man have R&B ringtone jingles like it's 2006?
Red man comes later. The black man of Africa is the original Native American. The red man comes later. Here's what you need to understand for all my descendants of red natives, non-African Native American Negroes. To my non-African Native American Negroes, I want you to know this so you don't look stupid. Many of the red Native American tribes on the reservations, many of the red Native American tribes on the reservations.
Oh yeah, we didn't hear you. We needed you to repeat it. Guys, peep game. When he repeats himself multiple times and speaks with extra vocal inflection, it's because he's filibustering because he doesn't know what to say next. He's not doing the double speak for emphasis. It's filibustering tactics because he's trying to think of the next thing to pull out of his ass.
Will not accept you as one of them genetically if you don't have a Native American grandparent. Some of the red tribes require 25% ancestry. That means a grandparent must have been a red Native American. I'm going to say it again. I'm trying to help you so you don't look.
So now he's fear-mongering. Yes, guys, there are a few tribes out there that want you to have a certain amount of blood quantum. There's plenty of tribes out there that do not care about blood quantum at all. You just have to show an ancestor was a part of the tribe. Muskegee Creek Nation is one of them. So I find it interesting that Umar wants to cherry pick the fact that some tribes go by blood quantum to try to what? Deter us from researching our family's genealogy and seeing what tribes our ancestors were affiliated with. Look at the fear-mongering tactics to do everything he can in his power to keep us from doing our own family genealogy. Make it make sense. What's he trying to hide? Well, I know what he's trying to hide. I've been doing genealogy with folks all damn week, last week included, and I ain't found nobody's genealogy family tree that said nothing about no Africa. Not one of them. Slaves? Yes. But guess what? Slave don't mean African. Indians were reclassified as Negroes and slaves. Look it up.
Stupid when y'all go out there because y'all being miseducated by these YouTube people. I'm going to say it again. Many of the Native American tribes will not consider you a descendant of their red nation if you are not 25% native. That means you.
And fun fact, modern day Africans hate Black Americans, say we're not African, and want nothing to do with us. What are you talking about? He wants to fearmonger because some tribes won't accept us, but he don't want to talk about all the Africans that won't accept us.
Listen, 1 second. There's no llamas in Africa. Llamas are found in Asia, you dumbass nigger. Instead of resorting to your 4th grade, jokes, let's have a grown-up conversation. All right, nigger?
No, you got your cousins over there in Los Angeles, the homeless people shitting in the streets as we speak.
Ma'am, homeless people do not represent the population. The homeless people are people who are mentally ill for the most part. If you see a foundational Black American shitting, that's a mentally ill person on Skid Row. It's not a dude walking around as a lawyer who's taking the shit on the side of the road and then going to practice law like back in your homeland.
Hey, Umar wants to talk about the fact that some native tribes are anti-Black, but he don't want to talk about all the anti-Black Africans, huh?
America have never been
I know how
independent
we
anyway.
got our independence. I want to know how you Africans got your independence.
Oh no, the white man gained independence from Europe. The black man in America did not gain any independence.
What
Fuck
country
that
are
shit.
you from?
The white man is still on your neck, man.
What
You don't know what
country are you
independence
from?
is.
What
I
country
agree
are
with
you
you,
from? I know
Jay.
you hear me, boy. What country are you from?
I don't give an F, bro. You don't know. You go stay your ass in America,
Don't
man.
even tell
You
us
believe in white superiority. Come on, man. Inferiority, guy.
from
I don't
finding out how
compete to inferiority guys, man.
the savage you are. That's why you don't want us to know what country you come from. You're insecure, African man. I would.
You knew on this panel, bro. Everybody on this panel know where I'm from, nigga. Come on, man.
I know he's too insecure to let us know what country he's from.
I'm not
Because all
insecure, bro. I have the same mentality
see
like the
how down
KKK.
bad
I
you
don't
guys
give an F about black Americans, man.
Yeah, you heard that here first. Multiple Africans calling us niggers, hard R included. Talking about they don't give a fuck about black Americans. They got the same mindset as the KKK. But we should be Pan African, says Umar. We shouldn't look into our genealogy, says Umar. We should be afraid because some native tribes might not accept us, says Umar. But these backward savage bush babies on the continent of Africa, they hate our guts. But Umar will never address that, will he?
You have a full-blooded red Native American grandmother or father. Most of you don't have that. Most of you don't have that. Most of you do not have a full-blooded red Native American.
Sir, do you have a full-blooded African grandparent? No. Do you have a full-blooded African in your family at all? No. Can you trace full-blooded Africans in your family tree 100 years ago? No. 200 years ago? No. 300 years ago? No. 400 years ago? Maybe. But he wants us to adopt some false African identity because Umar says so.
Grandparent. So you're going to lose. Number two, some tribes require that you be 1/16 Native American. That means one of your great-great-grandparents must be a full-blood.
I wonder if he's going to address the fact that there's some tribes who do not have blood quantum requirements at all. I wonder if he's going to say that.
Red Native American. Because the black Native Americans are Africans. They the originals. The reds are not original. Okay? So you better start putting your family tree together. You better.
Great, Umar. Thank you for the assist. Great segue, guys. Great segue. Over the weekend, 3 individuals I consulted with were able to uncover their ancestors' records and the tribes they belong to, thanks to my personalized guidance. And just like Umar Johnson said, the Prince of Potato Salad, Pan-Africanism, you should do your family tree. It helps you unlock the secrets of your family history, and you can do so with a simple genealogy consultation. Whether you're just starting out or you need help with your tribal citizenship process, Mike's here, and I got your back. As a Black Native American and a proud member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I offer a unique, personalized approach, and I can show you the step-by-step process my family and I use to trace our lineage and get citizenship with our tribe. Don't take my word for it. Listen to Umar. He says we should all map out our family tree. I finally found something to agree with Umar Johnson about. Lord, pigs must be flying outside. And I wonder if we do our family tree like Mike's family did, and we do find we're Aboriginal descent like Mike's family did, then is Umar going to give us an apology? Oh no, that's right. His new scheme is saying, yeah, we're native, but hundreds of thousands of years ago, we really came from Africa.
Start putting your family tree together. Okay? You got 4 grandparents. Some tribes want one of your 4 grandparents to be a full-blooded red native, right? You got 8 great-grandparents. You got 16 great-great-grandparents. Most tribes will at least require one of your 16 great-great-grandparents to be a full-blooded red Native Americans.
That's false. That is absolutely 100% incorrect. And this is why we should not get advice on Native American norms from someone that's not a Native American. Umar says he's African, right? Why are we going to let a fucking African tell us what the process is of applying for Native American citizenship when he's never done that? Oh, wait, but I have. So I think you should take my word for it when I tell you Umar Johnson just told you all a bull-face lie.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my gosh, stop fucking lying.
Most, at least at the bare minimum, the softest requirement, some tribes will require 1/16 Native American blood, meaning
that is another lie.
I love when you lying like that, so I'ma keep lying like that, I love when you lying like that, so I'ma keep lying like that.
you have a red Native American great-great-grandparent. Okay? So, for you Negroes who don't know your ancestry, you better start putting your ancestry together. I'm trying to help you out. You don't want to be black, you want to be red, no problem, but you better start shaking that family tree. You better get them names, because you're going to have to prove the way that these red natives, because remember, y'all not from Africa, so we're not talking about the black Native Americans of America, because the black Native Americans of America are Africans. We're not talking about that.
And remember, his evidence for that is some Greek guy said some African guy traveled the four corners of the world. So because he traveled the four corners of the world, American Indians come from Africa. But the four corners of the world include other places like Asia and other continents. So why isn't Umar trying to tell all these other folks they're African? I mean, why isn't he preaching to the Jewish folks and the Italians and the Spaniards and the British folks and the Chinese and the Indians and the Russians and the Mongols? Why aren't they telling all them they're African, since the dude traveled all around the globe, and that's why American Indians come from Africa now, right, Umar?
Because y'all said y'all not from Africa. So if y'all not from Africa, you don't belong to the indigenous American population. Since y'all not from Africa, you don't belong to the Aboriginal Native American population, because the indigenous Aboriginal Native American population were Africans, but you not from Africa. So that automatically means you are a descendant of the red natives who come later. Huh? Right? Sister just says she Cherokee. Are you sure you belong to Cherokee, or were you owned by the Cherokees? Let me ask the question again. I want you to understand, overstand, and understand. When you tell me you are
Oh my gosh, now we're getting to the Hotep babble. We got to understand and overstand and understand. Are you like a Cherokee, or were you like owned by the Cherokees? Just so much pseudo babble. Why would we ever take advice from a man who's not an American Indian? We might as well have a Russian person up here right now telling us, hey, you ain't really native unless you do this, and this how you apply, and you're not gonna get this and that. I mean, we might as well have a whole Japanese person up here talking about you're not native and da 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 da. I mean, why are we gonna take advice from a pseudo pan goofy?
Cherokee. Are you telling me that you belong to the Cherokee Nation, or did the Cherokee Nation own your damn grandparents? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Because the Cherokees were a slave-owning red native nation.
And the whole reason that there was a transatlantic slave trade is because Africans are slave traders, and Africans captured Africans and sold them to white people for gunpowder, muskets, and beer and mirrors. So why is he gonna get to clapping like some autistic nigga over the fact that some slaves were held by indigenous tribes, when Africans have had slave trades since the 7th century? Look it up. In the 7th century, Africans were enslaving one another and selling slaves to the Arabs. Then in the 15th century, they start selling slaves to the Europeans. Guys, it's called a fucking slave trade. It's not called the Grand Invasion Holy War when Europeans snuck into Africa and conquered them and stole people and shipped them around the world. No, it was called a trade because there was two consensual parties, the Africans who were freely trading their African slaves to Europeans. But now he got the nerve to get all big and bad, poking his chest out over the fact that some Native American tribes had slaves. Out of the hundreds of tribes, 5 of them held slaves after they were killed off, assimilated, forced to basically talk white and act white. And these were the 5 assimilated tribes, not the 5 civilized ones. But when is Umar Johnson ever going to talk about Africa's role in multiple slave trades? Imagine if when Europe went to Africa and said, hey, do you got some slaves? Imagine if Africa just said no.
The Choctaws were a slave-owning red Native American nation.
The whole entire western part of Africa was filled with slave-holding African nations. Mansa Musa, the biggest, baddest Bill Gates of Africa, he was a slave driver. Madame Tinubu, look her up. She was a slave driver. What is he talking about?
Seminoles were a slave-owning red Native American nation. The Creeks were a slave-owning red Native American nation. So when you say you are Cherokee, you might be telling me that you're happy to have been a slave of the Cherokee.
Okay. So if you're saying you're an African American, you're saying that you were happy that you were enslaved and sold by Africans, right? Just using his same logic against him, right? Guys, he's speculating whether or not our genealogy is one that was enslaved by a tribe. He's speculating on that. But we know for a fact that anybody in North America that descends from Africans were sold as slaves by Africans. So what is he talking about? Why is anybody claiming to be Pan-African? Does that mean that you're proud that Africans sold you to the white man to bring you over here?
When you tell me you Seminole, you might be telling me that you happy to be the slave of the Seminole. Oh, you better.
When you tell me that you African, you must be telling me you're proud to have been enslaved and sold by Africans to Europeans.
To do your history. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Just because you got Cherokee blood doesn't mean you belong to the Cherokee nation.
And just because you have African blood does not mean you belong to any African nation.
Just because you have Cherokee blood doesn't mean you belong to the Cherokee nation. It could very well mean that the Cherokees owned your great-great-great-great-grandparents, and one of the Cherokee men raped your great-great-great-great-grandmother, and that's how you got Cherokee blood.
So instead of us doing our genealogy, we're supposed to believe some pseudo scamming clown when he theorizes that we come from slaves that were raped by Indians. Guess what, guys? When I looked up my genealogy is not one of which is the product of a slave that was raped by an Indian. That wasn't in my family tree. It's most likely not in yours. But if you don't do your genealogy, you'll never know. If you follow pseudo clowns like Umar, hey, he'll have you thinking all kinds of shit, y'all.
Just like Africans in America, just because we got European blood don't mean we belong to the European kingdoms.
And just because we have African blood doesn't mean we belong to African kingdoms. You see how that works, right, Umar?
Reason we got European blood is the slave master raped our mothers. That didn't make us European.
That's false, sir. There were also blacks marrying and having kids with white people freely since the 15th century. Stop the cap.
just because your great-great-great-grandmother was owned by the Choctaws, or your great-great-great-grandmother was owned by the Cherokees, or your great-great-great-grandmother was owned by the Seminoles, don't mean you Seminole, don't mean you Cherokee, don't mean you Choctaw. It just means that the owner slept with his property. The Cherokee owner slept with his property. The Choctaw owner slept with his property. The Seminole owner slept with his property. And that's how you got the blood in your body. Y'all got some explaining to do. Y'all got some explaining to do. And when you go to prove you Native American, you better have your whole ancestry together. You got to show documents. You cannot walk into the United States Congress. You cannot walk into the United States Congress.
Why is he clapping like a little bitch? Guys, fun fact. Nowhere in the process of applying for Native American citizenship do we have to go to the U.S. Congress. What is he talking about? You pay like a $25 fee. You send in an application. They send you a membership card. You don't even have to send in a bunch of documents and prove your whole family tree. You just have to give your ancestors' tribal roll number and their name and their date of birth, day of death, if you got it. But what is Umar talking about, going to Congress? Is he trying to convince us that if we want to get a card like Mike, we got to go to Congress? Because I'll be the first one to let you guys know, I didn't have to go to no goddamn Congress.
You cannot walk into a hearing before the Cherokee Nation or the Seminoles or the Choctaws or any of the other hundreds of Native American tribes and say, my grandmom told me I was a Cherokee. My granddaddy told me I was a Choctaw. My great-great-grandmom told me I was a Seminole. That's not going to cut it.
And if we go to Africa and go to one of those tribes or nations and say, hey, Umar told us I'm an African, that's not going to cut it either, Playboy. They call us Akatas.
That's not going to cut it. Oral tradition is not going to get you a place at the table. Furthermore, what y'all need to know about these racist red Native American tribes. Furthermore, what y'all need to know about these racist red Native.
So which tribe is a racist red Native tribe, sir? There's literally hundreds, almost 1,000 different tribes. Which one is the racist red one? I'm confused. I'm confused. There's a lot of tribes that have been infiltrated by white people and have assimilated to white culture and values. So there's a bunch of white people cosplaying as Indians on reservations today. But where are these racist red tribes? Can you name one? Or is he just talking out his ass again? All right, guys, before we wrap up this broadcast, let's go ahead and open up the phone lines and see what the people have to say. First caller coming from the back to the front is Curtis. Curtis, let the people know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
And Curtis calling in from Louisville, Kentucky. Do you think that Umar is just saying this because he wants to have this whole Pan-African movement and he doesn't want to include anybody else outside the Pan-Africanists?
Yeah, I think it's because Black Americans waking up to their Aboriginal roots ruins his entire grift. It directly reduces his income. If we realize we're Native and most of us aren't African, don't descend from Africans, then why would we go to his Pan-African lectures and go buy his dashikis and his ankhs and take his $6,000 travel packages to Africa if this is our land right here?
Yeah, I think it throws everything off, and I think he's surprised by it. I think by the time he came out, there was no indigenous movement going on.
Yeah, there was no indigenous community at the time, facts. Okay. And now all of a sudden there's a big thriving community of Black folks identifying with their Aboriginal roots, and he's like, oh shit, I gotta try to quell this rebellion.
Right now he feels threatened. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I'll let you get to Tyrone. I know he's dying to speak.
All right. We got Tyrone in the building. Tyrone, where are you calling in from and what's on your mind?
What's good? This is Tyrone Leung from Charlotte, North Carolina. This man said a whole mouthful of pseudo. Oh, let me go right on in on this clown. Because him and Tariq are both babbling on about this red-black dynamic when there's no such thing as a red Native American, and there's no such thing as a Black Native American. These are constructs that were put in place by white supremacy. Because before the red-black dynamic, they were calling their slaves copper-colored. And then when you look at the definition of the 1828, it says copper-colored races, not race as in plural, but races. And people, indigenous people, did not see themselves as crayon colors before the European arrival. And also, Indians were really practicing slavery in America before Europeans arrived and during. So, yeah, that was happening. And you also had Black Americans during the slave trade owning Black Americans. But that does not disqualify their ethnicity. These Pan-Africans don't do enough research, and there was an indigenous community before the Pan-African movement and during the Pan-African movement. You had the Moors speaking on the indigenous identity. Then you had African Americans ain't African during Umar Johnson's rise. So him just saying that, oh, y'all pretending, y'all making up stuff, for one, motherfucker, your ass wasn't an African during slavery. You had white people pushing Africa upon you, like the Free African Society. You had the what's that? The Free African School that was invented by Alexander Hamilton. They got a whole play about him. He was a fucking slave owner, a rapping slave owner, mind you. He invented your African Free School and taught one of your students, Ira Aldridge, to make up a whole Fulani identity about himself. You also had Aloda Equiano. He had no African identity. His real name was Gustavus Vasa, and he was trained to be a slave trader. He was born in South Carolina. He made up a whole story about being an Igbo prince. And he was also adopted by a bunch of Jewish men. So again, we can't take this whole victimization Olympics and fearmonger people out of doing their own genealogy. Because when we look at Umar's genealogy, his father came out and stepped forward and said, this nigga is a whole Cuban. So he's being a $5 Bailey, because that's whose Frederick Douglass family's name is, Bailey. And they denied Umar Johnson's genealogical connections to them. And he came out self-proclaiming to be Harriet Tubman descendant and doing all these 50-state graveyard tours, appropriating people's grandmothers and grandfathers to be his own, but he a whole fucking Cuban. So how you gonna sit up here and talk shit about the Indian, but you ain't talking shit about the African who blood sacrificed you over here? You want to sit up here and say, oh, the 5 civilized tribes. So one, the 5 civilized tribes, they didn't even get their name until 1866. And before 1865, decades before, you had Black slave owners active at the same time Native Americans were enslaving other Blacks or other Indians. And there was a whole Indian slave trade before alleged Africans came in. So if you're going to claim that theory of Sally Hemings, Thomas Jefferson story of rape, and then apply it to the 5 civilized tribes raping African women, for one, African women weren't brought like that to the United States. It was mostly African males forced to sleep with indigenous female slaves because the female slaves were more docile, and they sent the hostile men out of the country to become docile and buck-broken in the Caribbean, to be sold as curiosities in North Africa, to be sold as mamelucos in this is a term for mestizo or mulatto for mixed Indians.
Hold on real quick, Tyrone. I got one more person I want to get up here before we wrap up this stream. We also got Desmond in the building. Desmond, let the folks know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
I am calling from Florida, and what's on my mind, I see y'all guys talking about Umar. I just had a run-in with him not too long ago, this past weekend. Was on a call with my cousin. He is up in Atlanta right now, and he knows his genealogy and everything because he's literally a full-blood Navajo. Indian. He's actually promoting his radio show, which is basically like he goes and talks to different Black business owners, and he tries to elevate the Black community that's up there. But Umar was at a conference up there talking about the Pan-Africanism and how Black people were from, Africa and everything. My cousin was up there actually talking with him, and he showed him his tribal card, and Umar had the nerve to actually tell my cousin that he was basically his ancestors, even though they were up in Asia, that they were exiled from Africa. That's why they were forced to travel over to Asia, and that they were the ones that were kicked out of their tribes, and they crossed over to America, saying that every single Black person originated from Africa.
Hold on, rewind that back, because for one, we got African tribes in West Central Africa saying that they are original Asiatics. They're not even aboriginal to Africa, and you can't, like, for example,
that's what I'm
you got
saying.
the Igbo tribe.
I know that. Like I said, we've looked up our genealogy. We know where we're from.
Real quick, guys. Real quick.
Yeah.
So, Desmond, you're telling me Umar's trying to promote that even though your cousin, who's Navajo, said they got some Asian DNA, he's saying that they were exiled from Africa, sent across the Middle East, through Asia, and then from Asia went through Russia, across the Bering Strait, and then down to the southwestern plains?
Saying that they were exiled originally. So they were originally in Africa, but they were exiled, and that's why they had to travel over to Asia and had to flee to Asia, basically.
That still doesn't make sense. I mean, logistically, even if you're exiled from Africa, then you would catch a boat ride over to America. That'd be shorter than traveling across Africa, across the middle, basically across the whole other side of the world. Come on now.
Like I said, I debunked them within like 2 minutes, and
he probably got mad, huh?
He got upset, and he called both me and my cousins basically immigrants. Literally.
Hold on. Because I met him in real life too. In 2013, we had that Johnson C. Smith lecture in Charlotte, North Carolina. This was when I was in high school at the time. You remember the YouTuber, the nigga with the tattoos, aka Robert Perkins?
Yes, I remember Robert Perkins.
He was there with me, right? So we met this nigga. This is the first time I ever met this nigga in person and heard him lecture, and I found out he was full of shit then. I took a picture with this nigga, mind you. It's on my Facebook page. So
damn, Tyrone,
this nigga was over here talking about X-Men, talking about all types of
hold on. Tyrone just confessed to being a closeted Pan-African. Say what?
No, I wasn't a Pan-African. I was just attending.
Umar was my hero.
Any ideology.
Tyrone, was you wearing a dashiki when you took a picture with him?
Did you have a
I took a picture with this Negro.
With a dashiki?
No, I don't wear dashikis and all that shit. I just attend a lot of Afrocentric stuff.
Did you have some juju?
I even went to the Million Man March in 2015.
So Tyrone, what does Umar have you so tight about?
Oh my goodness gracious! Well, he has me up so uptight about his goofy ass. No, what I found out about his goofy ass, because he says a lot of pseudo filibustering ass mixed conscious stuff, and he's not a real scholar.
In person,
yes, in person.
Yes, in person, he dodges a lot of simple questions, like the questions that even me and my cousin was asking him. He would talk about a whole different topic that had nothing to do with the question that we asked, and he kept trying to like push the goalposts, and I would keep. Even I would say, "Dude, that's not answering our question. That's totally something else. So can we get back to the question?" And he's like, "I'm trying to explain. If you just listen, and need you to listen." And I'm like, "I got 2 ears and 1 mouth, bro, and what I'm listening to is something else. I need you to answer the question," because we asked him, "How in the world, if our ancestors literally, and we have our genealogy, and they originally come from Asia, they don't come from Africa, how come there are black people in Asia? And he's like, y'all just escapees. And I'm like, no, there's no escapees if we can keep tracing back to the same area. It's not like
my boy
saying,
Safa
oh,
Karu put out videos of random
ancestry.
Africans saying that they're Asiatics. You have the tribe down there in Senegal talking about you can't start their history without speaking on them originating from Hindustan, India. You got the Chaminuga, Shona people in Zimbabwe saying that they originate from Persia.
Well, you know,
You
guys,
got the
I just looked
Mandinka.
at the time. I got to roast Jason Black here shortly, so let's do
That's what
closing
I'm waiting
remarks
on.
real quick.
I wish we can do a part 2 on this shit.
I'll be waiting for it.
Yeah, no, see, I was gonna do a
Mike
part
probably
2,
will.
but I'm running behind schedule, so I'll probably do a part 2 on this tomorrow.
All right, bet.
Tomorrow or Friday. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm waiting for the
it's time
Jason
to roast
Black.
Jason Black.
Yeah, right.
Oh, incel bitch ass.
That's another one. Mr.
Chris Brown is getting money from women to take pictures.
Yo, Jason Black said that olives were sweet, my guy.
He said what?
He said to his live audience that he went to a Martha's Vineyard style event with Italians, and they told him that real olives were sweet. Are you kidding me, bro?
No, they're always bitter, a variation of bitterness, but
depends on if it's green or black olive.
No, I ain't never heard nothing like that shit. My boy Alquan pointed that shit out.
No, it's not.
Well, guys, any closing remarks related to Pseudo Johnson?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and close out. I'm gonna be waiting for you for that next one, especially on this one here, because
oh yeah, I got a lot more videos of Umar
I know
ranting
you
about
got
natives. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you got.
My closing remark would be that how in the hell can they be African if Africa is a baby language? That was a term coined by the Romans.
Actually, it was the Greeks.
No, it was the Romans that started with the word Africa. The Greeks called it Ethiopia.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Before y'all start arguing about the origin of the word Africa, let's go ahead and wrap up the broadcast. Curtis,
Yeah,
maybe you want to do closing
I'm good, man.
I think Curtis is the only one who knows how to do closing remarks.
Thanks, Mike, for having me on. Thank you, chat, for having me on. Just wanted to get my little story across of what I just went through, basically, with this idiot.
Yeah, before I get my train of thought, he said another goofy thing he said was, what was that shit? Damn,
I'm about to start playing the To the Left song on your ass.
Yeah,
we wrapping up the show.
I'm
Don't
getting
go
ready to
anywhere,
go.
guys. As soon as this broadcast ends, the next broadcast is going to begin automatically. I will see you guys over there in just a second. Don't listen to the pseudos. Look up your genealogy. Shoot me an email. I'll help you out. Good Lord, good Lord. Don't listen to the pseudos. And don't touch that dial. We'll be live in just a moment.